Why are we seeing an increase in individuals identifying as conservative? Is it because the left has gone too far left, Democrats have gone insane, and regular people are saying, yo, no way? Yes, absolutely. But there's a bigger thing, there's something bigger at play here that I've been talking about for some time. Conservatives in the 2000s had more kids. So now we're probably looking at like 4 to 3. For every 4 conservative kids, you have 3 liberal kids. Now, the left tries to subvert this fact, not subvert, but that tries to compensate for this by indoctrinating your kids. But it is not working. I've got some amazing data for you, my friends, from Gallup. Social conservatism in the U.S., highest in about a decade, with many people asking why it is. Gallup reports more Americans this year, 38%, say they are very conservative or conservative on social issues than said so in 2022, 33%, and 21, 30%. At the same time, the percentage saying their social views are very liberal or liberal has dipped to 29% from 34% in each of the past 2 years, while the portion identifying as moderate remains near a third. The last time this many Americans said they were socially conservative was 2012, during a period when consistently more U.S. adults identified as conservative rather than liberal on social issues. So here's the chart. Americans' liberal conservative self-identification on social issues. Thinking about social issues, would you say your views are liberal? It says very conservative, conservative, moderate, liberal, or very liberal. Very conservative and conservative currently sits at around 38% to liberals, 29%. Moderates somewhere in the middle. And moderates are favoring conservatives 2-1. This is tremendous. And I'll tell you what I think it is. You know, I'm all in favor of gay marriage. I am 100% in favor of gay parents adopting kids and all of that stuff. But there are challenges that come with it that are testing my moral limits. When I look at someone like Dave Rubin, and shout out to Dave, he's a great dude, a great personality, a hardworking guy, and a great dad. I look at Dave Rubin with inspiration. He and his husband, as a gay married man, have kids. Now, many conservatives I think they use surrogacy, and they view this as completely wrong. I say Dave Rubin's children will have one of the best and most responsible upbringings of any child in this country. Personally, I do think a child is probably better off with a mom and a dad. And there are questions and limitations to what 2 dads can offer that a mother and a father would be able to provide more. There's certain things that are probably missing from that. But I take a look at the picture holistically. If I look at what life is like for many people growing up on the south side of Chicago, I'd say these children would be lucky if they grew up with Dave in Dave's household. For that reason, I am in favor of this, and I think there's hard questions to ask, but this is where the line comes in. There are many parents who are not like Dave Rubin. There are many parents who would indoctrinate their kids in creepy and offensive ways. These kids are these parents introduce their kids to things that children are not capable of understanding. Now, of course, in society, children do understand birds and the bees, moms and dads and all that stuff. And now with gay parents, it does open the door. And this is where the moral line is challenged. With any gay parent, you now have the question arising in schools where they ask, if there is a child with, 2 dads or 2 moms, well, that's going to come up, right? And we have to explain it. I disagree, though. You can explain it as to a child would need something explained. There are 2 moms that take care of you, your parents. When it comes to teaching about the birds and the bees, it's an entirely different subject. The moral line is challenged when these people introduce books on overt sex to children to explain these things. And I think that's wrong. And that's where I think many people may be becoming more socially conservative. Because of this introduction, you now have an easy argument for conservatives to say, listen, I understand your point on a well-to-do, responsible gay married couple having kids. However, this does mean they're going to start teaching their kids about things, and it's going to normalize things which will put children at risk. It's long been the argument. It's not 100% completely wrong. It's just to what degree. And we can see now that the left has abused it to an extreme degree where they're trying to keep information from parents and target and groom children. For that reason, I'm not surprised many people are now saying that they're conservative. I do think the bigger component here, though, is younger people more likely to be conservative than any other generation, are aging into these brackets where they're now being asked. Let's read more. Gallup says the results are based on Gallup's annual Values and Beliefs survey. The survey comes at a time when many states are considering policies regarding transgender matters, abortion, crime, drug use, and the teaching of gender and sexuality in schools. The increase in conservative identification on social issues over the past 2 years is seen among nearly all political and demographic subgroups. Republicans show one of the largest increases. Independents show a modest uptick. And they say, while there has been no change among Democrats. Fascinating. Take a look at this. 2023, Republicans, very conservative or conservative. It's also possible that we're dealing with a perception shift in that if liberals used to say safe, legal, and rare on abortion, but now they say abortion at any time for any reason. Any reason's good enough reason for me. A regular person who doesn't know much about politics might conclude, well, I must be a conservative. But that's wrong. The far left becoming prominent does not change what a liberal is. And a far leftist lying and claiming they're liberal does not change what a far leftist is. But the perception may change. And for that reason, independents, Republicans, middle of the road people, they may be saying, you know what, maybe I am conservative, if that's what it means. This is a victory for the left if we allow it. So I reject it. The left, they love to call me a conservative, but I'm not. I'm pro-choice. I don't call it mutilation. I call it child sex change. Had the argument last night. I am a traditional liberal, a social liberal. I am not even a classical liberal. While my views do tend to skew libertarian, and there is an overlap between traditional and classical liberals to a great degree. Traditional liberal is a center-left position, and classical liberal is a center-right position. The reason they want to call me a conservative is so that all of you who agree with me on social issues and political issues think you're conservatives, and thus the conservative movement becomes liberal. You get the point? Hold the line. That's what I say. Make sure you say, we know what a liberal is. We know what a conservative is. We know what a far leftist is. We know what a far rightist is as well. Don't let them change the narrative. However, it may be that they are succeeding. They say since 2021, there have been double-digit increases in conservative social ideology among middle-aged adults. Those between the ages of 30 and 64 at the same time, older Americans' ideology on social issues has been stable. And therein lies my great point, my friends. Let me read this for you again. They say, among middle-aged adults, those between 30 and 64, there's been a double-digit increase. At the same time, older Americans' ideology on social issues has been stable. How could that be? How could it be that someone who's older stays the same, but an age bracket becomes more conservative? Younger people enter that age bracket. That, my friends, is the best news you will hear for a long time. The future is going to be moderate to conservative. The liberals can't succeed, and for this reason, they're fading. Take a look at this. In 2023, 18 to 29-year-olds, you've got an increase. Changes in self-identification as conservative on social issues. In 2021, 18 to 29-year-olds, 24%. In 2023, 18 to 29-year-olds, 30%. But hold on there a minute. Understand this. Many of these people, we're seeing it across the board, don't get me wrong. 18 to 29-year-olds age up. So a portion of those people enter the later bracket. So in 2021, here's what you really need to consider. A 29-year-old in 2021, where do they find themselves? Because in the next year, they're now in the 30 bracket. Someone who's 49 into 50, they're in a different bracket. Understanding that would be very important. But what I see here is if 18 to 29-year-olds are becoming more conservative, it's because young people are entering that age group. Now, don't get me wrong. If you look at 30 to 49, you can see from 22% in 21 to 35% in 2023. That is much more likely due to, say, a channel like mine on YouTube. The majority of our viewers are 25 to 54, so that's the middle of the younger bracket into the older bracket, which means the spike you'll see is, I think actually the average age of the viewer that watches my channels is like 30 now. A couple years ago it was like 28, a little bit younger than me. I'm 37, or I should say a bit younger than me. But you can see that big uptick, a major swing, because, well, they're watching channels like this. More and more creators are calling these things out. So there is a shift. Don't get me wrong. I just think the best news is that younger people are shifting heavily conservative as well. No, listen, it's only 30%. I don't know exactly where the liberals sit on the same line. But as we can see, the data shows people are becoming more conservative. One reason or another, perception or otherwise. And this change spells bad news for the left and good news for the right in the culture war. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.